Okay, so the Orthodox Christians today are doing the so-called miracle of the holy fire. Is it a miracle or is it just a fraud? Well, let's first go to Revelation, the book of Revelation. Let me go ahead and go to screen share first before I forget. So let's go to the book of Revelation. And there were some things that I found out this morning that, how do I put this, that I had been confused about before. So I want to go ahead and share some of this with you now. And I stood, verse 1, and I stood upon the sand of the sea. What sea was that? The Mediterranean Sea. And I saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns. Now, I described in earlier videos what these 7 heads and 10 horns were. The first of the 7 heads was Caesar Augustus, and it continued to the 7th, of course. Now what I want to go ahead and do is just continue. And of course, you know who the 10 horns are. They are the 10 kingdoms of Europe, 3 of whom, the Visigoths, the Vandals, and Heruli, were undermined by the man at the Vatican who calls himself Pope. Anyway, beast which I saw was like he had 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, which means there were actually 10 kings, and upon his heads the name of blasphemy. And the beast which I saw was like a leopard, and his feet was as the feet of a bear, and his mouth as the mouth of a lion, and the dragon gave him power, and his seat, and great authority. Now, at one point, Satan's seat was in Pergamus, but remember what I pointed out in one of the previous videos, the king of Pergamus had no heirs, and so he bequeathed his kingdom and his seat to the man in Rome. All right. And I saw one of his heads as it were wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed. Now, this head right here appears to be also, how do I put this? You see, there were the emperors first. And quite frankly, then the Emperor Constantine went to Asia Minor, to, what do you call that, Constantinople. He created a second Rome. And somewhere along the way, I think it might have been Justinian. I have to look into this. It is difficult, convoluted. But if you are a Roman and Greek scholar, you can figure this out. Now, some people say, well, okay, and I saw one of his heads as it was wounded to death, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. And they worshipped the dragon who gave power to the beast, and they worshipped the beast, saying, who is like unto the beast, and who is able to make war with him? Now, right here it says, and it was given unto him a mouth speaking great things and blasphemies, and power was given to him 42 months. And that was literally 42 months. And he opened his mouth in blasphemy against Jehovah, to blaspheme his name, just like Antiochus the madman did. Now, this was before the popes, the so-called popes. This was in a time when I believe it was Caligula began this blasphemy. And it continued to Titus, the Roman general. And it was given unto him to make war with the Kodesh, the Jews, and to overcome them. And power was given unto him over all kindreds, tongues, and nations. Now, this is why it's difficult, because you have to be a Greek and Roman historian to figure this out. And I'm not a Greek and Roman historian, but I know enough that it was Titus the Roman general. It was because of Caligula to begin with. Caligula caused the Jewish rebellion against the Roman Empire that Paul talked about, where it says the great falling away has to come first. That was not a falling away of churchianity falling away. No, that was a great rebellion. If you go and look it up, look up the word, Greek word for falling away, you will see it was rebellion. And the man of sin was Caligula, who the devil entered in at that time into that throne. And those of you who studied Caligula will realize that Caligula was at one time a sane and normal human being, but then he was overcome with severe mental illness. You figure it out. Okay. And he was the one who ordered his own statue as Jupiter to be placed in every synagogue in the entire realm of Rome, committing the same atrocities as Antiochus IV. Now, power was given unto him to continue 42 months. To do what? To blaspheme against Jehovah, to blaspheme his name and his tabernacle. Where was his tabernacle at? In Jerusalem, his temple. What was the blasphemy against the temple? He attempted to. He had all the accoutrements of the image of Jupiter as himself installed in the temple. And as I understand, the image itself was outside the temple. It was a blasphemy against Jehovah's name and his tabernacle, the temple in Jerusalem, and them that dwell in heaven. And it was given unto him to make war with the saints and to overcome them. Yes, for how long? It was 42 months. The war began in the early spring of 67 CE and ended in the War of Jerusalem, and ended in the fall of 67 CE. The entire war itself lasted 7 years, fulfilling the 1 week of Daniel 9, in spite of all of your preachers telling you that it has yet to come. Okay. Verse 8, and all of them that dwell upon the earth shall worship him, whose names are not written in the book of life of the Lamb, slain from the foundation of the world. In other words, the folks who go and worship and follow after this Roman doctrine, not just the guy at the Vatican, no, the whole Roman doctrine of Constantine, Sunday worship, Easter, Christmas, all of that, worshiping the so-called cross. If any man have an ear, let him hear. He that leads into captivity, he that led into captivity, it was Rome that led into captivity, shall go into captivity. It's going to happen. And he that murdered with the sword, like the Romans did, like the cross carriers did, must be killed with a sword. This is what the saints, the Kodesh, the Jews are faithfully waiting for. And I know this is going to make a whole lot of you Orthodox and Roman Catholics very angry, but the truth is not meant to pat you on the back and say, there, and assuage your guilt somehow. No, the truth is expose the works of darkness. Now, this is the one that took me a while to understand, and now I believe I've gotten my head around this. The beast out of the land. Now, you got to understand that John was a Jew. He was a Hebrew. Now, even though this is translated into Greek, when the Jews who are fluent in Hebrew and whose mother tongue is Hebrew, the word for land is eretz in Hebrew. And what it means is the land of Israel. Follow me here and I'll show you what I'm talking about. And I beheld another beast coming out of the eretz, the land, possibly the land of Israel. And he had two horns like a lamb, and he spoke as a dragon. And he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the land and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast whose deadly wound was healed. Calls him to worship this guy. Now, I'll get to the deadly wound in just a minute. And he does great wonders so that he makes fire to come from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. Well, this is what they're doing today. So let's look up the origin of the so-called holy fire, shall we? Let's see. Hope I didn't lose it. Here we go. Now, I don't want to read this whole article because it's going to take too long, okay? But you can see this is on premierchristianity.com. Holy fire, the biggest miracle you probably never heard of. Thousands of pilgrims will soon gather in Jerusalem. What? In Jerusalem, in the eretz, in the land, to witness the Orthodox Church's biggest miracle. But is it real? Every Orthodox Holy Saturday in Jerusalem's Church of the Holy Sepulchre, thousands gather to witness a flame miraculously, notice they put this in quotations, appearing in the tomb of Jesus, as they say. Orthodox Christians believe it's a potent symbol of the resurrection. It is the church's most important miracle. So if it's their most important miracle, then it is the premier wonder. All right, we'll go back to right here, and it says, and verse 13, and he does great wonders so that he makes fire to come down from heaven on the earth in the sight of men. So obviously, John is pointing out that it is the great wonder that these priests deceived the people with. That is the big one. So far, we have found a match. Let's continue. The ritual begins. Oh, it's for the past 1,200 years. Okay. The ritual begins with the Greek Orthodox Patriarch of Jerusalem. Oh, you know what patriarch means? It means father. Do you know what Pope means? It means father. Get it? The ritual begins with the Greek Orthodox Pope of Jerusalem. Or another Orthodox archbishop descending into the empty tomb of, as they say, Christos within the church and reciting special prayers. A non-Orthodox Christian is also said to examine the small structure surrounding the tomb to make sure no oil lamps have been left burning inside that the patriarch could use to light his candles. In the crowded church above the tomb, surrounding the edicule, the faithful chant with one voice, Kyrie eleison, which means Lord have mercy. The wait might be long or short, but eventually a light is said to appear in the tomb where the patriarch has been praying alone. Then he lights his candles with this miraculous flame, and accompanied by the pealing bells emerging to spread the fire among the crowd, and the once dark church becomes illuminated with a miraculous holy fire. Okay. I'll scroll down to here, a long history. When the award-winning Guardian journalist Victoria Clark traveled to Jerusalem to observe these remarkable events, she reported gasps and cheers and sobs and tears inside the church and described an overwhelming level of emotion coupled with a suffocating heat from the number of flames. She wrote in her book, Holy Fire, Battle for Christ's Tomb, the earliest recorded references to the miracle is Muslim and dates from the early 9th century. Its author simply tells of a bright white fire spontaneously appearing inside the shrine as if sent from heaven, and of Christians lighting their candles from the Greek patriarchs or the Greek popes holy fire. So this fella is indeed a beast that rises up out of the Arets, namely Jerusalem, you see. Before rampaging home in triumph, brandishing their divine favor and shouting, "Hasten to the religion of the cross." It is believed that the miracle of the holy fire was a contributing factor toward the persecution of Christians and eventual destruction of the original Church of the Holy Sepulchre by Muslims in 1009. Tradition dictates that a disgruntled priest who was bitter at being passed over for promotion had told the ruling Muslim caliph that a priest simply greased the chain of iron that held the lamp over the tomb with the oil of balsam, and once the shrine had been sealed, applied a match through the roof to the other extremity of the chain so that the fire descended immediately to the wick of the lamp and lighted it. The caliph believed the priest's story and decided to end the apparent fraud by destroying the church. It was rebuilt 40 years later at great financial expense by the Byzantine Emperor Constantine. What is it? The 11th, I guess, is what you say. I'm sorry, I don't understand Roman numerals very well, folks. But Monachimos and Patriarch Nicephorus of Constantinople. So Constantinople went and rebuilt this and continued this fraud that John talked about. Now, let's have another look at this beast out of the earth, or out of the Arets. In verse 11, what does it say? I saw another beast coming up out of the Arets, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke as a dragon. And he exercises all the power of the first beast before him. In other words, Pope, or Pope, Patriarch, means the same thing. And causes the Arets, the earth, the people that are in Jerusalem, and them which dwell therein, to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. In other words, same religion. Okay. 2 horns like a lamb. Let me show you something here. Is it this? No. Did I lose it? Okay, so I have to go. All right. The shield of the Byzantine shield. Watch this. Okay, let's look at images. That's not the one that I was looking for. All right. Me get to, oh, come on. I got to get out of images first and then do this. Please be patient with me. All right. See this? Two heads, and there's a crown. In heraldry and vexillology, sorry. The double-headed eagle is a charge associated with the concept of empire. Most modern uses of the symbol are directly or indirectly associated with its use with the Roman/Byzantine Empire, or the Byzantine Empire that was the Western or the Eastern Roman Empire, whose use of it represented the empire's dominion over the Near East and of the West. All right. So what country has a double-headed eagle? Why is the double-headed eagle Russia's national symbol? The imperial bird with the two heads simultaneously facing east and west has been Russia's official coat of arms for centuries, with only a break during the Soviet era. The emblem is, however, far older than the country, with roots dating to ancient civilizations. And then, of course, a lot of countries use this because it had to do with the Byzantine Empire. After the Bronze Age collapse. Well, what happened after the Bronze Age? What appeared after the Bronze Age? The Iron Age, or the Kingdom of Iron. There is a gap of more than 2 millennia before the reappearance of the double eagle motif. The earliest occurrence of the context of the Byzantine Empire appears to be on a silk brocade dated on the 10th century, which was, however, likely manufactured in Islamic Spain. Similar early examples from the 10th and 11th century are from Bulgaria and from France. The early Byzantine Empire continued to use a single-headed imperial eagle motif. The double-headed eagle appears only in the medieval period by about the 10th century in Byzantine art, but as an imperial emblem only much later, during the final century of the Palaeologos dynasty. In Western European sources, it appears as a Byzantine state emblem since at least the 15th century. All right. Now we got a little history on this two heads. Or two horns, like a lamb. And he spoke as a dragon. Now, and he did, verse 14, and he deceives them that dwell on the earth by the means of those wonders which he had power to do in the sight of men, or in the sight of the beast, saying to them that dwell in the land, they should make an image to the beast, which had the wound by a sword and did live. Now, and he had power to give life into the image of the beast, and that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast to be killed. Okay, so let's start with here. This first beast had a deadly wound, and the deadly wound was healed. Well, many make the argument Many make this argument among Christians, and they have a point. Now, in this particular article, www.benabraham.com, he makes this point, but the problem is he has a whole lot of other falsehoods in here that makes this particular article deceiving. So if I'm going to point this particular article to you, I will also have to point out the falsehoods. All right, so he starts, even though the Roman Church flourished during the 1260-year period. What 1260-year period? Well, what happened was Napoleon. Well, I'll just continue reading, you'll see it. Revelation 3:13 tells us that the beast would indeed suffer a deadly wound, and this prophecy was exactly fulfilled in the year of 1798. In 1798, 1260 years later, from 538, the Pope was taken into captivity and the Catholic Church was dealt a mortal blow. I don't know where they're getting this kind of math from. How did they come up with 1260 years from what was so special about 538? I'm not sure. I don't think it's significant. The dates here are not significant. What is significant is the fact that the man at the Vatican was deposed by the sword. Okay? He was taken into captivity and the Catholic Church was dealt a mortal blow. It happened just as Revelation had foretold with remarkable accuracy. During the French Revolution, under the orders from the revolutionary French government, General Alexander Berthier, one of Napoleon's generals, issued a proclamation in Rome on February 15th, 1798, informing Pius VI and the people of Rome that the Pope should no longer exercise any function. So indeed, this office did receive a deadly wound by the sword. Napoleon had dethroned the Pope because the Pontiffs found themselves alone, the sole fountain of order, peace, law, and safety in Western Europe, the temporal power of the vicar. You know what vicar means, don't you? I don't want to pull up too many pages. I think I'm done with this particular one anyway. Definition of vicar. Not vicarious. A representative or deputy of a bishop. Okay. They claim to be a representative of Christos. Well, Christos is not Yehoshua, the Hebrew Messiah, as I will get to in just a minute. Where was I? This one right here. All right here. Napoleon had dethroned the Pope because the Pontiffs found themselves alone, the sole fountains of order, peace, law, and safety in Western Europe, the temporal powers of the Vicar of Christos. In 1778, Napoleon intended that there would never be another Pope. The papacy was extinct, not a vestige of its existence remained, and among all the Roman Catholic powers, not a finger was stirred in its defense. The Eternal City had no longer prince or pontiff. Its bishop was a dying captive in foreign lands. And the decree was already announced that no successor would be allowed in his place. And this is in Rome from the fall of the Western Empire, page 440. In other words, a deadly wound was inflicted upon the beast power, just as the Bible prophesied. And I saw one of his heads, as it were, wounded to death. Revelation 13, verse 3. But But that was not the end of the story, for the second part of the scripture prophesied, and his deadly wound was healed, and all the world wondered after the beast. Now, before I get started, when was the deadly wound healed, if what this guy says is true? When was it healed then? When the fascists of Europe took power. When Mussolini and Hitler took power. Now what I have to do, because I read from this particular article, I have to not dispute, I have to trash this part right here. And this is what I have been warning the public about for a long, long time. Replacement theology. In my video that I posted yesterday, I pointed out that the churches were represented by the 7 golden candlesticks, in no way represented by the crown of 12 stars or by the woman that is in Revelation 12. Ever. To do so is replacement theology, and those who practice replacement theology, they worship at the synagogue of Satan. Those who claim that they are spiritual Israel or spiritual Jews and are not. Those who persecute the real woman, Israel. Okay, so he goes on here, but even during the 1260-year papal oppression, no. See, the 48 months where Rome persecuted the woman, or where made war with the woman, was in Jerusalem. It was Titus the Roman general. I have proved that over and over and over again. And so where he goes and says the woman is somehow God's true church, suffered tremendous persecution, God nourished or cared for his children, and to the woman were given 2 wings of great eagle, that she might fly into the wilderness, into her place, where she's nourished for a time, times and half a time, from the face of the serpent. And the serpent cast out of his... Folks, my goodness, how can people be so foolish? This is the regathering of Israel. The woman with the crown of 12 stars is the 12 tribes of Israel. Paul said in Romans 11 verses, we'll go there. Verses 25 through 28. For I would not, brethren, that you should be ignorant of this mystery, lest you should be wise in your own conceits, that blindness in part has happened to Israel, until the fullness of the Gentiles be come. And so all Israel shall be saved. Okay, this is one thing that the Gentiles simply do not get and absolutely reject. For there shall come out of Zion the deliverer, and shall turn away unholiness from Jacob. Because this is my covenant. What covenant? The covenant Paul talked about in Hebrews 8, verses 8 through 12. The same covenant that was written about in Jeremiah 31, verses 31 to 34. The new covenant. And what is that new covenant with Israel? When he takes away their sins. Now, he tells the Romans now, concerning the gospel, they might be enemies for your sakes, but concerning the election, they are the beloved for Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob's sakes. For the gifts and calling of Jehovah cannot be changed. In other words, that crown of 12 stars remains on the head of all 12 tribes of Israel. There is no such thing as spiritual Israel or figurative Israel. There is no such thing. Israel is Israel is Israel. So says Paul. It cannot be, it can never be changed, and therefore neither can the promise made to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob concerning the 12 tribes of Israel can ever be changed. Ever. So, knowing that, let me see if I can find this again. Where was I? Need to get rid of this right here. So when he goes and claims that the church is the woman, that's not true. I explained in yesterday's video what the church is, what the Gentile church is. It is not the woman who brought forth the man-child. The church did not bring forth the man-child. The man-child brought forth the church. Israel brought forth the man-child. And then the man-child warned the churches that he was going to come against them with the sword in the latter days if they continued to commit figurative fornication with idols. I'll probably get to that in another video. So you see here, they take great pains to spiritualize the truth away, as they say. Talking about many Christians suffered under the flood of the person. No, that is the flood of Ezekiel 38 and 39. This is incredible. This whole thing, this lie that the church is the woman who brought forth the man-child, when in fact it was the man-child who brought forth the church. It is incredible how they turn this backwards. Okay, so now that I'm done with this, you can see where the deadly wound was healed in Revelation. Right here. And he exercised, verse 12, and he exercised all the power of the first beast before him, and caused the earth and them which dwell therein to worship the first beast, whose deadly wound was healed. All right? Now here's another thing that he does. And he had power. What was it? Where does it say? It says that he calls them to worship the image of the first beast. Okay. Unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak, and cause that as many would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. So the image of the first beast, well, that came from Leonardo da Vinci. Okay. So what is it? Alexander commissioned well, let's try to make an image. Let's see if that works. All right. Now, I haven't read this one before, so let's look at this here. Image of the beast. exploring the theory that a modern image of Jesus was based on a pope's son. When you're looking for a real-life model for Jesus Christos, you'd be hard pushed to think a less appropriate stand-in for the Prince of Peace than Cesare Borgia. Boy, that's an understatement. The most notorious members of Renaissance Italy's most notorious dynasties, the cruel Cesare was thought to be the inspiration of Niccolo Machiavelli's satirical handbook for would-be tyrants, The Prince. This is not the Prince of Peace, folks. This is a prince of cruelty, of wickedness. Now, thanks to his father, who became Alexander VI in 1471, Cesare was made a bishop at the age of 15 and a cardinal at the age of 18. And at this point in history, the Pope directly ruled over a kingdom that dominated central Italy from its capital of Rome. Though a rising star in the church, Cesare fancied himself as a military man. There was one problem, though. His father had chosen that career for his older brother, Giovanni. Pope Alexander had appointed his pride and joy captain general of the church, the supreme commander of the Papal States' armed forces. Coincidentally, in 1497, Captain General Giovanni Borgia was found floating lifelessly in the river Tiber. Cesare left the church, inherited his brother's roles, titles, and wealth, and plus the title of Duke of Valentinois as a gift from the Pope to staunch ally King Louis XII of France. So this was Giovanni. The family weren't exactly short of enemies in Italy, but some suspect Cesare was behind his brothers and perhaps even drawing the blade himself. Further, Borgia family drama came from the fact that both Cesare and Giovanni shared the same mistress. Sancha of Aragon, the wife of a third brother, Geoffrey Borgia, a notorious womanizer. Cesare fathered 12 known illegitimate children. Yes, this is the man who both the first beast and the second beast made an image out of and forced everyone to worship it. As a papal warlord, Cesare rampaged across neighboring Italian states, while at home anyone who stood in his way, including family and friends, was done away with. And when his army rebelled against him, Cesare played peacemaker. He agreed to an amnesty and then, in bad faith, ordered all the ringleaders to be murdered. This man was a vile and treacherous and horrible human being, this very man that all Christians of Eastern Orthodox and Roman Catholic and all the Protestant religions bow down and worship. A foul and cruel man. This very strange idea that one of the modern images of Jesus is based upon Cesare originally comes from a claim made by the renowned novelist Alexander Dumas and picked up and expanded upon by biblical theorists. The argument goes that Jesus was originally depicted as appearing non-European because he was Jewish, which did not sit well with the Borgia Pope at the time. So in order to create a more European-looking Jesus, Pope Alexander VI commissioned new paintings of Jesus using his illegitimate son, Cesare, as their model. Well, of course he doesn't look Jewish, and of course this image here does not look Jewish. Of course not. And the fact that John in Revelation proves the point. The image of the beast, or the image commissioned by the beast. And incidentally, it was Leonardo da Vinci that did make that image. That's non-disputable. And all you have to do is take a look at the faces and you will see the similarity. Folks, use the brain cells that your creator gave to you. Now, this particular part right here is probably something that's going to happen in the future. When the real Messiah comes to Jerusalem, what are these folks in Rome and in Russia going to do then to deceive the people? Well, they already have the power to make, they already have, what is it, artificial intelligence power, robots, and all this other sort of thing. Or using, what do you call that? Oh, I can't remember the word. Anyway, you know what I'm talking about. Now, in the past, those who did not worship the beast were killed, or worship the image of the beast were killed. And he caused both small and great, rich and poor, to receive a mark in their right hand. Now, or to make a mark with their right hand, to make an insignia, to make an emblem with their right hand when they pray. You know what that is. Or in their foreheads. That's on Lent. And all the major Christian religions do this, every one of them. Every one of them. That no man might buy or sell, save he had the mark or the name or the number of his name. Now remember, here is wisdom. Let him that has understanding count the number of beasts, for it's a number of men, and his number is, as they say, 666. Now, but it's a number of a name. It's not just a number, it's a number of a name. Okay, so the man who commissioned this idolatrous act was Alexander VI. And in the days of Alexander VI, the name was Xesus. All right. Xesus, it's a common name still in Portugal. And it is not of Hebrew origin. It says it's mainly used in the Galician language. Galician? Where is Galicia? It's a Romance language spoken of by 2.4 million people, mainly in Galicia, in the northwest corner of Spain. So not only in Portugal, but in northwest Spain. It is spoken in neighboring areas of Asturias and Castile and Leon. Galician is more or less mutually intelligible with Portuguese, but uses Spanish spelling conversions. All right. Let me show you something. Come on, folks. Images. I've done this before. All right. This is the best one right here, so I'll do that. Now, first of all, see that mark of the beast right here? Let's look at this. X in, I believe it's Greek, is 600. Chi, or that's chi, chi. Oh man, I'm messing up. Chi, ji, and stigma. Now, for a long time, I got thrown by this stigma because I thought it was sigma, and sigma looks differently. Okay, that's XES, but it's a number. But it's a number of a name, so it is Roman numerals on a name. The number, as we translate it today into English, is 666, or 603 scored 6, 666, XES. Therefore, the name Jesus has in it the number of the beast, or the number of his name. And what do you see here? You see this. You see the grand deception, Satan, who deceives the whole world. But you know what? The Christians are not going to repent of this, not as a group. You might have a few individuals who come out of that, but Christianity as a whole is going to reject the truth and embrace their idolatry. Now, because worshiping idols is idolatry, and it's also adultery. Now, what I want to do, what is it? I need to go ahead and start deleting all these and think about what I'm going to talk about next, or see if I covered everything. Now, I don't want people to get be sidestepped by this. This is in dispute whether Vatican means divine snake. It is actually a basilisk, means the serpent, and basilisk is the root word for basilica. All right. Anyway, I think I've covered. Oh, before I forget, notice that all the Christians, both East and West, they worship the image of the first beast, or the one commissioned by the beast in Rome. You see, Russian Orthodox icons. Now, speaking of icon, what is the definition of an icon? Definition. All right. A painting of Jesus Christus or another holy figure, typically of traditional style, on wood. Venerated and used as an aid to devotion in the Byzantine and other Eastern churches. An image, an idol, a portrait, likeness, representation, symbol, figure, statue, model. That's what, and that's idolatry. Now, going back to Revelation 3. Now that we have proven that this particular image is a false image, is fake, and it is idolatry, I want to show you a few things here. Message, this is the Revelation 2, message to the church in Thyatira. Verse 18, is this spiritual Israel? No. This is not the woman with the crown of 12 stars. This is merely one of the 7 golden candlesticks. And unto the angel to the church in Thyatira write these things, says the Son of Jehovah, who has his eyes like unto a flame of fire and his feet like unto fine brass. I know your works, your charity, your service, and faith, and patience, and your works, and the last to be greater than the first. Notwithstanding, I have a few things against you, because you have allowed that woman Jezebel. So there was a woman that came in among them, like Jezebel, Ahab's wife. What did Ahab's wife do? She caused the people of Israel to worship idols. Who calls herself a prophetess, to teach and seduce my servants to commit fornication and eat things sacrificed to idols. Notice how they put all this together. Let's look at Strong's Concordance here. Fornication. Obviously, oh, look at here, usages. Fornicate, to practice idolatry. Bowing down and worshiping images of wood and other things is fornication. That's what it is. To be figuratively, to be unfaithful to the Hebrew Messiah, posing as his true follower or pretending. All right. So now we know what fornication is. It is part and parcel to idolatry. Now, as it says right here, and it eats things sacrificed to idols. Easter candies, Christmas goose or Christmas swine, whatever. It's all the same, eating things sacrificed to idols, or eating things in honor of graven images and idols. Now he says he gave her space to repent of her idolatry, but she refused. Behold, I will cast her into a bed. What kind of a bed? All right, if you look carefully, you will see here, it is a sick bed. A bed or a couch on which a sick man is carried to afflict with disease. Oh, you see? That's one of the plagues that's going to be poured out on those who have the mark of the beast, you see, and the number of his name, and who worship his image, Jesus. Cast her into a sickbed of disease, and them that commit adultery with her. Okay, here we go. Commit adultery. Adultery of a man with a married woman, but also of a married man. Now, watch this. We'll keep on going down. Is used of those who at a woman's solicitation are drawn away to idolatry, i.e., to eating the things sacrificed to idols. Here we go again. And not only that, you also have them that hold the doctrine of Nicholas, jolly old Nicholas. Which thing I hate, repent, or else I will come quickly against you quickly. Oh, this is, I'm sorry, this right here is in the one beforehand. Will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. What? He's going to fight against the church with a sword? Yes, he will in the last days, and I pointed out in my last video. But let's continue with this particular church in Thyatira. And I will kill her children with death. Let's look at this. Usage. Death, physical or spirit. What does that mean? Figuratively, separation from the life of salvation of Jehovah forever by dying without first. Well, that what they're saying is saying dying to death without salvation. That's what the general consensus here is. He said he's going to deprive them of salvation and kill them. And all the churches, all the other churches shall know that I am he that searches out the reins and the hearts, and I will give every one of you according to your works. But unto you I say, to the rest in Thyatira, that have not had this doctrine, which have not known the depths of Satan. So when you go and bow down to Jesus, and you eat of these foods that are in honor of this graven image that is patterned after the prince of darkness, the prince of wickedness, you've known the depths of Satan. That is adultery and fornication. That's exactly what it is. But to those who have not done that, those who have not participated in this of this church, as I speak, I will put upon you no other burden but that which you already have. Hold fast till I come. And he that overcomes and keeps my works unto the end, to him will I give the power over the nations. Well, he's going to give the power over the nations to Israel. It's written in Daniel 7. So in other words, to those of the church in Thyatira will be able to join that woman with the crown of 12 stars when she is taken into her place in Israel, away from the serpent, which is Rome, Western civilization, for 3.5 years. You'll be able to join them, just like the church in Philadelphia will be able to join them, hand in hand. Not an enemy of the Jews, not talking down to the Jews, but blessing the Jews, calling them the elect. Which one of you today, listening to this video, is willing to call the Jews Jehovah's elect? Which one of you? Paul did. I just proved it to you in Romans 11. Are you willing to? If you're not, you're boasting against the branches and you will be cut off. It's just that simple. If you claim that you and your church are a replacement of Israel, you are boasting against the branches and you will be cut off. And Israel, of course, as Paul said, will be grafted back in to her own place, which is Eretz Israel, with the capital of Jerusalem. So, I think I'm finishing up here, and